Hi everyone. Today I'm going to talk about what I call learning under lockdown. I asked my student about how did they feel when we transitioned from being on campus for a couple of months suddenly to online classes. Did they find this transition difficult, or if it was difficult, well, why they experience this experience was difficult for them? And the reason I asked this question was because in face-to-face classes, when you are in an environment that you see your students, it's easy to kind of pick up how they're feeling. If they're not feeling well or if they're not doing well, you just go and gently ask them what's going on. Is there anything I can help you with? But in online environment, it's really hard to pick up the feelings. It's really hard to know if they are struggling unless you ask them. And I wanted to ask them to know if I can help them with anything, if there was something that I could offer my help, if being flexible or understanding about their situation would help them in this process. So I just asked them the question and let them to, in a kind of safe and non-judgmental way, I let them to share their experiences with me. And here today in this presentation, I'm going to share with you some of the main responses that I received from students. Um, so the question was, how did you feel moving from studying on campus to online? Did you find it difficult? If yes, please provide your reasons. The main issue that it was quite common between students was internet connection. Um, a student who live in countryside, they generally have low speed internet connection. Students who are not living in countryside, they're in city, they experience difficulty at some time because, with the number of people using internet at home, it can be a couple of people at the same time in one household using internet. So sometimes they experience that in the middle of a lecture, they had poor connection, and then suddenly they would miss part of the lecture. And that made them, if the lecturer was not recording the lecture, would makes it really difficult for them to catch up later on. Another issue that came up, especially with adult learners, was managing their time between work, study, and family. Before, when situation was normal, they had a couple of days working, so they could focus on their works, and then 1 or 2 days they would come to campus and study, and then they had their evenings or weekends for their family time. But now they're at home with kids, spouses, and with their work. So now they have to manage their time. So some of them, they have small kids, which are quite demanding, and they find it very difficult to find time to study. And then they were saying, even if find time, it would be after 8 p.m. when they go to bed, and be already tired at the time. Other students, they were saying, at home, we are mom, we are wife, we are teacher, because we had kids at home, we're not going to school, so we have to help them with her homework and studies. And then we were a student as well. So all of these at the same time was very hard for us to handle. And they often say that when we come to campus, it's actually a break for us. It breaks from everything so we can concentrate and focus on our studies. Another thing that was mentioned in the students' feedback was distractions that they have at home. If they are parents, so obviously they live with their kids, And if they were young adults living with their family, there were also family around them. TV, if they were living in with their roommates, they say that sometimes they're not really, the house can be very noisy. TV, kids running around, even noise coming from outside. I had a student complaining about, buildings around them, that they are workers, there were noise coming from outside the house. So they find a lot of distraction when they were studying at home. Some other students who didn't have their family around, or even they had family around, they find it really hard to stay focused and motivated on their study. They say when we come to university, it's a lot of engagement with the student, and we kind of, having a lot, we feel a lot more motivated. But at home, we lose our motivation. And for some students who didn't have anyone around them, they find themselves feeling very lonely and sometimes irritated because they don't have anyone to talk to or share their feelings. Some students talking about online studies or online classes are very distracting. And the reason is, they said, we sometimes being bombarded with other students sending us text messages on Zoom, for example. Student talking at the same time during the Zoom sessions, plus teacher. So we could easily, hearing lots of noises coming, but we couldn't hear anyone's clearly. And also, about noises that come from students' houses. Sometimes they don't mute their speaker, and then there are other people talking in their houses, and then it's quite distracting for a student who are in the Zoom sessions. They say face-to-face classes is a lot engaging. We have teacher around us, we have other peers around us. The whole university environment, it's engaging for us. And whenever we find problem, we could ask. But being at home and stuck at home, it's a lot harder to find people, to ask for help. And also, they say some of our teachers, they're good with online teaching and some are not. It's a new experience for us as teachers to teach online. We didn't have any training for it. So some of us might deliver online classes okay, and some of us not. And that's something that a student felt as well. They say when it's about learning theories, online environment is quite good. So we didn't find it difficult to learn theories. But when it comes to calculation, it can be a bit of a struggle, because when teacher is explaining during the Zoom session, the equations, sometimes we lose track. Sometimes the internet gets slow, and we kind of don't know what's happening there. So they prefer, if it's about equation and learning about calculation stuff, that the tutor would record herself or himself and put it on somewhere for them to watch, instead of just doing it live in the class. They find online tests a bit difficult, more difficult than face-to-face, like on-campus tests, because they said during online tests, our tutors give us very limited time, and sometimes it's a lot of struggle to basically be able to answer the question in a limited amount of time that we have. And they find it very difficult to work on their assignments at home with all the distractions. When they're on campus, they could go and sit somewhere quiet and work with their peers on their assignment. But at home, having family around, kids around, TV, noise, And a lot of them, you know, they have to just work after 8 p.m. So it was a lot of a struggle for them to work on their assignment. And another thing that they mentioned in their feedback was group projects. That was a challenge for them as well. And the reason was the ways of communication with group members, it's kind of limited for them. They said, we send our group members emails or we text them, but when we don't get any response, we have to kind of get on with our project and finish it. And if we want to do it individually or with one or two members of the group, it would be a lot of work for us. And also a lot of conflicts that arises when they don't get collaboration from other group members. And then they were kind of hesitant to do group work. So this is something that they are, it's new for them as well. So I think with, I always encourage them to try working in their groups, because that's how we are, that's a new normal that we have now in our life, online system, and we have to be able to, you know, collaborate with people through online system. That's kind of the main thing that was mentioned by students in the feedback that I received from them. I hope you find this useful. Thank you very much.